When life feels heavy, when the road ahead seems uncertain, and when everything you counted on starts to shift, it's easy to believe that happiness has disappeared. We often think that happiness belongs to the days when everything goes right, when our plans work out, when our hearts are free of pain. But true happiness doesn't depend on what's happening around you. It flows from what's happening within you. It is not found in the absence of hardship, but in the presence of faith. That quiet, steady belief that even when life feels difficult, there is meaning behind the struggle, and there is a wisdom greater than our own guiding every step. Faith doesn't remove the storms. It gives you an anchor in the middle of them. It whispers to your heart when everything else is loud and chaotic. You are not alone. It reminds you that the pain you feel is not pointless, that your tears are seen, and that the delay in your plans is not a denial, but a redirection. When you hold on to faith, your heart begins to see the same moments differently. You no longer see challenges as barriers, but as bridges leading you closer to growth, maturity, and divine connection. Many people spend their lives chasing happiness in things that can be lost. Money, approval, relationships, achievements, only to discover that even when they have them all, there is still a quiet emptiness within. That's because happiness built on temporary things is temporary itself. But faith roots happiness in something unshakable. It teaches you that even if everything you have changes, there is still something that cannot be taken: your relationship with the one who never changes. That awareness transforms how you experience life. You stop seeking to escape pain and start seeking the strength to find purpose within it. Faith changes your inner conversation. Instead of asking, "Why me?" you begin to ask, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of focusing on what's been taken away, you start noticing what's still there. Breath, hope, love, prayer. Every challenge becomes a lesson wrapped in disguise, and every disappointment becomes a doorway to deeper understanding. Happiness then becomes less about perfect days and more about peaceful hearts. You realize that peace doesn't arrive when everything around you calms down. It arrives when your heart does. There's a beautiful kind of calm that comes when you trust that nothing that happens to you is without purpose. Faith gives you that calm. It tells you that the hardship in front of you is not a punishment, but an invitation to return, to reflect, to realign. It pushes you to discover a kind of happiness that isn't tied to external ease, but to internal surrender. You start to understand that faith is not just believing in God when life is good. It's remembering that He's still with you when life is not. The more you cultivate faith, the less control you need. You learn to rest in the flow of life instead of constantly resisting it. You begin to see the hidden gifts in the delays, the beauty in the detours, and the blessings that come wrapped in trials. Happiness then becomes an act of trust, trusting that every situation, no matter how painful, is part of a divine design that ultimately leads you towards something better. When you carry that belief deep within, no hardship can take away your peace, because your happiness no longer depends on what's happening outside of you, but on the unshakable faith that lives within your heart. Pain has a way of humbling the heart. It strips away the illusions of control and exposes how fragile, how deeply human we really are. In the middle of hardship, it's easy to believe that pain means we've been forgotten, that maybe we're being punished, or that something has gone terribly wrong. But in truth, pain is not a punishment, it's a pathway. It's a means through which we grow, heal, and rediscover what truly matters. It's a divine tool that refines the soul and draws us closer to what is real and lasting. When everything feels easy, we often drift away from our center. We move quickly, we forget gratitude, we rely too much on ourselves, and too little on the one who sustains us. But when pain comes, suddenly the noise of the world quiets down. We start listening again, not to people, not to distractions, but to our own hearts and to the voice of the one who has always been guiding us. Pain makes you pause, and in that pause, something begins to awaken inside. You begin to see how hardship breaks you open only to make room for something deeper. To enter pain can be one of the most honest teachers. It doesn't lie to you. It doesn't flatter you. It shows you who you are when everything else is stripped away. It reveals the strength you didn't know you had and the illusions you were clinging to. It tests your patience, your trust, your ability to surrender. And though it hurts, that pain has purpose. It's through those dark, uncertain moments that faith becomes real. Because believing when everything is easy isn't faith, it's comfort. Faith grows strongest when you can't see the way forward, but still keep walking. When you start seeing pain as a pathway, you stop fighting it with bitterness and start walking through it with awareness. You begin to realize that every hardship has hidden gifts buried within it: patience, resilience, compassion, empathy, wisdom. Pain teaches you how to sit with yourself, how to let go, how to depend not on people or outcomes, but on something higher. It softens the heart that success once hardened. It humbles the soul that pride once lifted too high. It refines your intentions, your priorities, and your prayers. Pain also reconnects you with others in ways that comfort never could. When you've known heartbreak, you understand another's silence. When you've walked through loss, you no longer take presence for granted. Pain deepens your capacity to love because it reminds you how fragile everything is. You become gentler, more aware, more alive. The same wound that once broke you becomes the reason you can now comfort someone else. And maybe that's one of the most sacred purposes of pain. It teaches us empathy. It teaches us how to see through the eyes of others and to treat their scars with tenderness. There's a kind of beauty that only pain can bring, the beauty of transformation. Like a seed that must crack before it blooms, the soul often breaks before it grows. That breaking isn't the end, it's the beginning of something new. Pain pushes you toward the light even when you can't yet see it. It asks you to trust the process, to believe that there's meaning in what feels meaningless. It's not about enjoying the pain, but about understanding that it's shaping you into someone who can carry deeper peace, deeper love, deeper faith. And when you finally emerge from that darkness, you see that every tear, every ache, every moment of uncertainty was part of a sacred journey guiding you toward who you were always meant to become. So much of human sorrow begins with attachment. The way we hold tightly to people, possessions, and moments as if they were meant to last forever. We cling to the things that bring us comfort, believing they will always be there. And when life inevitably changes, we feel shattered. But the truth is, everything in this world is temporary. Every joy, every pain, every connection, even our own time here, all of it is fleeting. To find peace that lasts, we must learn to detach from what fades and anchor our hearts to what never does. Detachment is not about indifference. It's about understanding the difference between what is passing and what is eternal. When we tie our happiness to what can be lost, we set ourselves up for heartbreak. The world was never designed to give us permanent peace. People come and go, seasons change, circumstances evolve. Yet the heart often refuses to accept this reality. It chases after stability in an unstable world, seeking forever in things that were only meant to stay for a while. That's why true detachment doesn't mean you stop loving or caring. It means you love with freedom, not possession. You learn to appreciate without clinging, to hold things gently instead of tightly, knowing that everything belongs to the one who gave it in the first place. Anchoring yourself to the eternal means remembering that this life is a journey, not the destination. Every blessing, every loss, every turn along the way is meant to guide you towards something beyond this world. When your heart is anchored to faith, you begin to experience a calm that no situation can shake. You understand that the people and things you cherish are gifts, not guarantees. You become grateful without becoming dependent, peaceful without being detached from compassion. Your soul learns to rest not in the temporary comfort of the moment, but in the unchanging mercy of the Creator. This detachment frees you from the constant highs and lows of life. You stop being controlled by what you can't control. You stop depending on others for your sense of worth. When you no longer expect the world to complete you, its imperfections no longer devastate you. You begin to live lighter with less fear and more faith. Because detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. It allows you to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. It allows you to love deeply, yet without losing yourself in that love. You start to understand that letting go is not loss, it's alignment with reality. There's an incredible peace that comes when you stop demanding permanence from impermanent things. When you stop expecting people to be your source of happiness and start recognizing them as part of your journey, not the destination. The more you anchor your heart to the eternal, to God, to purpose, to meaning, the less you fear change. Because you know that even when everything around you shifts, your foundation remains the same. This kind of peace cannot be broken by distance, death, or disappointment. It's a peace that comes from being rooted in something timeless, something that will never abandon you. To detach from the temporary is to stop chasing the mirage of lasting satisfaction in a world that was never designed to provide it. It's to realize that your soul's thirst is not for what's here, but for what lies beyond. When you let go of the illusion that worldly things can fill a divine longing, you begin to experience real freedom. You begin to see beauty in transience, to find meaning in endings, and to trust the flow of life. You realize that every loss, every goodbye, every change is simply life reminding you not to build your home in a place meant only for passing through. Detachment doesn't take away love, it purifies it. It transforms attachment into appreciation, dependence into devotion, and restlessness into peace that lives beyond time in a world that glorifies control. Surrender is often misunderstood. People are taught to hold on tightly, to plan every detail, to force outcomes, and never appear vulnerable. We grow up believing that letting go means losing, that surrendering means giving up. But real surrender is not weakness. It's strength of the highest kind. It takes courage to release what you cannot control. It takes faith to stop resisting and start trusting the process of life. True strength is not found in holding on to everything, but in knowing when to let go and allow what is meant for you to unfold naturally. Surrender does not mean passivity. It doesn't mean you stop trying, caring, or moving forward. It means you stop fighting reality. You stop arguing with what life has already decided to teach you. It's the difference between swimming against the current until you're exhausted and learning to flow with the water, conserving your strength, allowing yourself to be carried where you're meant to go. There's peace in that flow, a peace that control can never give. Control keeps you anxious, tense, and afraid of loss. Surrender teaches you that loss is not the end, but part of a larger design that your limited vision cannot yet see. When you surrender, you shift from fear to faith. You begin to understand that your plans are not always aligned with what's best for you. Sometimes what you think is falling apart is actually falling into place. Surrender allows space for divine wisdom to enter, for guidance to replace worry. It's not resignation, it's recognition. Recognition that there is a higher plan unfolding, one far greater than your own. And when you align with that plan instead of resisting it, you find strength you didn't know you had. You stop drowning in your own expectations and start breathing in trust. Surrender also brings freedom. The more you try to control every outcome, the more imprisoned you become by your fears. But when you release the illusion of control, life opens up. You stop fearing what's next because you understand that whatever comes, you will be guided through it. You stop trying to predict every turn because you trust the one who wrote the map. This kind of faith doesn't make you weaker. It makes you unshakable. You still make efforts, but your efforts come from peace, not panic. You still dream, but your dreams are surrendered to divine timing. You still care, but you no longer crumble when things don't go as planned. To surrender is to accept that some things are meant to happen differently from how you imagined them. It's understanding that your story is written with wisdom beyond your comprehension. You may not always understand why a door closed, but you trust that it was for your protection. You may not see the purpose in your waiting, but you believe there's preparation happening in the unseen. Surrender transforms pain into patience, confusion into clarity, and fear into faith. It teaches you that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop trying to control and simply trust the one who controls all. The strongest hearts are not those that never break, but those that break and still choose to trust. The strongest souls are not those that never fall, but those that rise again with softer hearts and clearer faith. When you surrender, you don't lose power. You align with a power far greater than your own. You stop carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders and hand it back to the one who never needed your help to hold it. In surrender, you discover a strength that is quiet, steady, and unwavering. The strength that comes from knowing that you are being guided, that you are exactly where you're meant to be, and that you don't have to fight what was always meant to flow when the world feels dark, when pain surrounds you and nothing seems to make sense. One of the most powerful ways to find light again is through service and gratitude. These two qualities shift the heart from self-centered sorrow to soul-centered purpose. They remind you that even when life feels heavy, there is still good to be found, still beauty to be shared, still something to give. Service and gratitude work together to lift the human spirit. One opens your heart to others, and the other opens your eyes to blessings that were always there. Service softens the heart. When you reach out to help someone else, even in the smallest way, your own pain begins to lighten. It's as if in lifting another, you lift yourself. Helping others doesn't erase your problems, but it gives your suffering meaning. It reminds you that your struggles can become a source of empathy, that your wounds can become a well of compassion. When you serve, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How can I bring light through this?" That shift changes everything. It transforms pain into purpose, isolation into connection, and despair into hope. There is a deep peace that comes from knowing your life matters to someone else. Service doesn't always mean grand acts. Sometimes it's just listening to someone who needs to be heard, offering a kind word, sharing what little you have, or simply showing up. It's not about how much you do, but the sincerity behind it. When you give from a place of love, your heart begins to heal. You start realizing that every moment is an opportunity to give something. Kindness, time, patience, a prayer. The more you serve, the more you awaken to the truth that life is not about what you can take, but what you can give. Alongside service comes gratitude, the quiet awareness that even in hardship, there is something to be thankful for. Gratitude doesn't ignore pain, it balances it. It doesn't deny the storm, it reminds you of the shelter within it. When you start counting blessings instead of burdens, your heart begins to expand. You start noticing the sunlight between the clouds, the lessons hidden in the losses, the small mercies that often go unnoticed. Gratitude transforms ordinary moments into sacred ones. It allows you to find peace not because everything is perfect, but because you've learned to see the perfection within everything. Gratitude also humbles the soul. It reminds you that nothing you have is truly yours. Every breath, every heartbeat, every smile is a gift. When you live with that awareness, entitlement disappears and appreciation takes its place. The more grateful you are, the less space there is for fear, anger, or despair. Gratitude teaches you to find contentment in simplicity, to cherish what remains instead of mourning what's lost. It turns what you have into enough and what you experience into lessons. Through gratitude, the heart learns to focus not on what's missing, but on what's meaningful. When service and gratitude meet, something miraculous happens. Your heart lights up from within. You begin to realize that joy doesn't come from getting more, but from giving more. That happiness doesn't depend on how easy life is, but on how open your heart remains. You may not be able to change the whole world, but you can change the atmosphere around you by bringing compassion where there's pain and thankfulness where there's complaint. Service fills your life with purpose, and gratitude fills it with peace. Together, they create a light that no darkness can dim, a light that radiates from the soul and touches everyone who crosses your path. Every heart is searching for peace, for that deep sense of fulfillment that nothing in this world seems to fully provide. We chase happiness through success, love, wealth, and recognition. But no matter how much we gain, there's always something missing. That emptiness we sometimes feel, even in the middle of comfort, is the soul's reminder that it wasn't created for this world alone. True and lasting joy doesn't come from external things. It comes from connection. A connection with the one who created the heart itself. Your relationship with Allah is the source of all joy because it anchors you to something eternal, something unshakable, something that never fades. When your heart remembers Allah, it feels alive. When you turn away, that same heart feels restless, no matter how much you try to fill it with worldly distractions. There's a quiet contentment that settles within you when you draw near to Him, a peace that nothing else can replicate. You realize that even if the world turns its back on you, you're never truly alone. Allah's presence is not something you can always see, but it's something you can feel in the calm that follows sincere prayer, in the relief that comes after crying out to Him, in the strength that appears in moments you thought you couldn't continue. The heart finds its purpose when it connects with the one who designed it. This relationship is not built on perfection, it's built on sincerity. It's not about never falling, but about always returning. Allah doesn't expect flawless worship or endless strength. He asks for a heart that seeks Him, even through its weakness. The more you remember Him, the lighter life feels. Even your hardships become easier to bear because you know they're not meaningless. You begin to see every challenge as a message, every delay as protection, every loss as a path back to Him. That awareness transforms how you experience everything. You stop asking why life is hard and start asking how this moment can bring you closer to Him. There's a sweetness in faith that can't be explained, only experienced. It's in the peace that fills your heart after a sincere dua, in the tears that fall when you realize how much He's already forgiven and blessed you, in the strength that comes when you place your trust entirely in Him. This connection nourishes the soul like water nourishes the earth. Without it, the heart withers. With it, it blooms even in drought. The more you nurture that relationship through prayer, remembrance, patience, and gratitude, the more vibrant your spirit becomes. You start to find joy not just in ease, but even in struggle, because you recognize that everything is from Him and leading you toward Him. When your happiness depends on people or outcomes, it becomes fragile. But when it depends on Allah, it becomes limitless. People may change, situations may fall apart, but Allah never leaves. His love is unconditional, His mercy endless, and His presence constant. Knowing that gives you unshakable peace. You no longer feel desperate for validation or fearful of loss, because your heart has found where it truly belongs. You begin to understand that nothing you lose can take away the joy that comes from knowing the one who gives and takes with wisdom. The joy found in your relationship with Allah is not loud or fleeting. It's quiet, steady, and deep. It fills the empty spaces that the world cannot reach. It teaches you that happiness is not about getting everything you want, but about trusting that what you have is exactly what you need. It's about living every day with awareness of His mercy, seeing His signs in every sunrise, feeling His care in every breath, and resting in the certainty that He is closer to you than your own heartbeat. When the heart is connected to Him, it no longer seeks happiness. It becomes happiness itself,